say to somebody, well, what are you? And they say, well, I'm a Scorpio. I say, oh, my heavens, you know, that's terrible. But anyhow, I was in Barcelona designing toys. And I went with
children's toys?
Children's toys, yes. And I went with the toy manufacturers, and there were a whole group of people because the Spanish government had taken a group of us over to Spain. So there were, 10 of us for dinner on this long plank table. And I didn't speak too much Spanish, but all of a sudden, I don't know, in the middle of the meal, we started talking about horoscopes or something, and I guessed the 5 people on the other side of the table.
Did you hit their signs?
I hit their signs. I didn't get their exact day they were born, but I hit their signs, and it just happened, just like that.
And then what was it that happened with some, was it some tumblers or some cups or something that were being purchased?
I was in San Francisco, this was about 3 years ago, and a gentleman I had been doing business with for 5 years, buying from his import company. I was there, and I was looking at the horoscope mugs, which are very big at that particular time, and buying some grosses of horoscope mugs, and he was, sort of taking the order and everything else, and I took the Leo mug, and I said, you're a Leo. Just like that, just casual. I said, you're a Leo, and he said, yes. And I said, you're born, like, August the 1st.
You didn't hit it exactly, did you?
Yes. And he put down his order pad.
I'm glad you weren't at the top of the program. We'd be competing for time. My gosh.
So he sort of put down his, his order book and went over to his secretary and says, take over, please.
And he had someone else take over?
Yeah, it really upset him. I don't know why, because, I mean, like, it was,
On a date, I can imagine even more so.
But I can't explain how this happened. It just happened,
Very briefly, because I think this is a fascinating anecdote, and she started to tell it to me. I didn't want to hear the rest of it. Something about a building you were in some time ago. I think it's almost in a chilling account. What happened?
Oh, this is 2 weeks ago.
That recently?
Yeah, 2 Sundays ago. Yeah, 2 weeks ago. I was in a townhouse in Philadelphia. I was doing a television show in Philadelphia. I was designing all the outfits for it.
Remember the name of the show?
Well, it's called the Dialdo Romano Show. It's a new one that's coming out, and it was at the Academy of Music. And afterwards, we went back to the executive producer's townhouse, and it has 6 floors in it. And we were in the studio floor, which is the 3rd floor. There were just a few of us left. This is very sort of late in the evening. And all of a sudden, I just said, I've got to get out of the house. I said, I've got to leave, because I was staying there that evening before flying back. And I said, I have to leave. And everybody said, well, this is ridiculous. And I said, I have to get out of the house. And I became almost hysterical, and it took 4 people to hold me down. And I don't usually get that. I mean, like, I guess I'm an emotional person, but I've never, as a house guest, I've got to get out of your house type thing.
Right.
And it took 4 people to hold me down. And 4 hours later, this was late at night, it was about 3 in the morning. And when the maid came in around 7:30, she came up the steps, and the next thing I knew, she was yelling fire. And the floor above me, right above the floor I was sitting in, was completely gutted.
Well, I'll tell you, folks, I don't have any ability to foretell the future, but objects have always been fascinating. There's some theories that they give off radiation. I don't know. She has a test for me, Marilyn does, and I might try maybe a little bit of a test with some members of our audience as well, right after the following commercial. Marilyn, great to have you. Now, Marilyn was asked to come here with this box already sealed. She had it in her possession. You have told no one of the contents of this, but this is what confuses me. Why an envelope, which I realize you've been carrying, and a box? Does it have something to do with the relationship? Don't tell me what it is, but does one lead to the other, or is it a part of the other?
No, one leads to the other.
You're going to have to help me. When you say leads to the other, Marilyn, is it a part of the same thing?
No, it's one thing that happened, one thing that happened from one thing to the next thing.
All right, Marilyn, let me ask you this. Which is the final culmination as far as an object is concerned, or an item? Is it the item in the envelope, or is it the item in the box? Which is the final?
The final is what's in the envelope.
In the envelope, not the box?
No. The box is what came before the envelope.
Marilyn, would you close your eyes, please? Do me a favor. As you move a little bit forward, you stand right. Close your eyes. Which came first? No, tell me nothing. Which came first, the box or the envelope?
This came second. Something else came before that, which we don't have anymore. This came second, and then finally we got that.
Close your eyes, Marilyn, and just concentrate, please. I don't... I'll tell you very frankly, folks, the thought... It doesn't make sense to me, because as I try to write or spell... Marilyn, would you picture you're picturing the object, are you? As I write or spell,
yes.
It just... Just a moment. I don't think I'm writing. This is something This is something... I'll write at the very end what I think this is. I have not been writing letters. I've been drawing. Marilyn, in the envelope, is that the final conclusion?
That's the final thing that happened.
In here, would I be correct that this is not to deal with clothing directly, but you could wear this?
Yes.
The initial object? Would it be long, metal?
Before I mean, I don't have that
Yes.
anymore.
Do you know what it is?
That was first of all.
It would be long.
Yes, it was.
You don't have it here with you.
It's gone.
Would it be a pin of some kind?
Yes, that's what it was before.
A hat pin?
That's right.
You could qualify it with it's some kind of area or period.
That's right.
You wouldn't be thinking of not a Victorian hat pin?
That's right.
Is that exactly right?
Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
Exactly right. Marilyn, would you show us what is in here, please? This is the second step.
This is the second step.
Kindly open this. Our time has gone by so fast.
From the Victorian hat pins, these were made.
This is a ring. Am I correct?
That's right.
And I understand if you'll take out the envelope with inside, reach inside. Maybe I can help you very, very quickly.
Yeah.
You mind if I look in here? Because I've jotted down 2 envelopes, and I should take them out. What does this have to do with them,
Well,
Mary?
these are my own personal rings, which I made from Victorian hat pins. I took Victorian hat pins, cut them apart, made those rings for myself. In turn, for my jewelry line, which I designed.
For the public?
For the public, like in the $5 category, which is entirely
All right.
different than that price.
You made these rings.
I did takeoffs on the rings.
And they are rings. If you'll hold that for a moment, Mary. In other words, from the hat pin, the Victorian hat pin, you designed a personal ring and then rings for the public.
That's right.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to show you something, if I may. I drew constantly circles until I realized they stood for public rings.
The experiences of Miss Brooks only tend to suggest what is held by many people as a theory that ESP and creativity go hand in hand. No one really knows for sure, but it's really worth wondering about. Thanks again until next week. Goodbye, everybody.
Within this book on the life of Houdini is the key to one of the great spiritualistic seances in history. This and more tonight on The Amazing World of Kreskin. Now here is Kreskin.
I'll always work in this area because of the greatness of your response. It's an unusual kind of program tonight, and really to save time, when I do a thought reading effect, I will never pick anyone before the program unless they have to prepare something mentally of complexity. But I wanted to do an effect a little bit in the area of a problem, and we had a gal who said she'd come up here. Would you come over here, miss? I haven't even introduced myself. Do you know who I am?
Yes, I do.
What's your name?
Jane Moore.
Mrs.?
Yes.
Mrs.? Jane, sit right down there and join me, if you will. I'll grab that chair for you. You can sit as close as you'd like. It doesn't really matter. Jane, you don't know what I'm going to do you? I was threatening during the top of the show that I might do some thought reading. But the program deals with mystery, the whole theme, because Houdini was a legend in his own time. What may have made Houdini great, beyond his showmanship, is that he escaped from things, constrainment. And the theory may be that all of us are kind of hemmed in by our environment, and Houdini symbolized escape. Well, now, regarding this whole thing, I have a package here. It's a miniature mail bag, which is very appropriate to later on in my program. And inside, we have a tube, which used to be used a great deal for putting film in. Now it's locked. In fact, your first name is what again?
Jane.
Jane?
Yes.
Would you do me a favor, Jane, and just take it and unlock? There's no way, you can examine it. There's no way of getting inside the tube right now, is there, without unlocking it? Well,
No.
she's trying. Unlock it, if you will. Let's get the tube close up. Here, I'll hold the lock for you. Put it inside and turn it, if you will. It's a very small tube, but again, film would be... There, we snap the lock. You can pull the key out of the padlock if you want. Take the bolt out. There's a bolt through this. Matter of fact, this duplicates one of Houdini's great effects, which was a milk can escape, where he was put in a giant milk can and was able to extricate himself. The principle's very similar. Now, if I can get it out of this was not meant to have anything but film in it. Would you pull out the contents of that? You'll notice it is a handkerchief. Matter of fact, I'll tell you what I'd like to do. I was going to have a pad here, and I was going to have a marking pencil, but I kind of forgot. Maybe someone can toss me a marking pencil real quick, because what I want you to do is to place across that some initials. I don't know what I do with this gentleman here, Louis. Louis, our floor manager, has been a great help through the years, and he came at the right time. Take that in your hand and just place your initial, or one of them. That's going to fit. It's going to go. There we are. That's right. You got it? You want to put one other letter of the alphabet, lest anyone think that I planned that you would write that down. It doesn't have to be your letter, and that is not your letter, is it?
No, it isn't.
You just put a D there. You can put the top on if you will. Maybe I can help you by starting to stuff this in. Matter of fact, do me a favor if you want. Push it all the way in. Just put it inside. We're trying to keep this on camera all the way. Now, it's a pretty tight fit because it's a very tight tube, and it's kind of hard to get the whole thing in. Maybe you can put the top on, please. Try to hold this on camera and put the bolt all the way through, if you will. All the way. And then would you put the lock on? My gosh, you never thought you'd be locking anything quite in this way, did you? Make sure it's snapped shut. Get it on. Is it secure? And don't snap it shut until it's totally secure.
Okay.
All right, and then you can do it. Now, is that secure? Can we have that on camera? Is that totally secure?
Yes, it is.
The bolt is in there. There's a reason why I had you autograph the silk. Because a lot of people felt that Houdini dematerialized. They believed in spirit-like phenomena. That's not the case. And yet I think what's interesting is the fact that, look, there is the tube, as solid as can be, and your initials. It's your handkerchief. You're very, isn't that wild? Look at how solid it is. Take it in your hand. There's absolutely no opening. And folks, we will be back. We'll be back in a very few seconds. Join us. My special guest is a dear friend. It's a man whose career and lifetime has crossed, knowing with great confidence, the Thurstons, the Blackstones, the Houdinis, and the world of magic, writing a tremendous amount of material on psychic phenomena, and the creator and the author of The Shadow. Meet, if you will, Mr. Walter B. Gibson. Walter? Oh, Walter, I have dreamt of having you on. I have postponed this particular program dealing with Houdini because I wanted you to be on. You wrote how many, of course you all remember, Who Knows What Evil Lurks in the Hearts of Men. How many shadow novels did you write, Walter?
283.
283?
Yeah.
How often? Every couple of weeks?
Yeah, for quite a while I was doing 2 a month.
2 a month?
Yeah.
Well, how many books have you written in all, even including The Shadow?
Well, I've written 80 books on general subjects. That includes magic, games, puzzles, even camping.
You wrote a book on camping?
Yes.
And then taking all the books, it would be how many, would you say, roughly, if you had to guess? How many books in all?
Well, I'd say 80 books, and then the shadows I'm counting as a separate item, 283. Well, added up, that's 363.
And you were very close to Thurston and Blackstone and Houdini. You know, in fact, I wanted to ask you, I never saw Thurston. He died just a few months before I was born. And my father, who knows nothing about magic and has chosen to know nothing except as a layman, always thought of him as one of the great magicians. Is there something that you could
describe to us that would capture the mystery of his show? Some illusion or effect that he did?
Well, he did one thing that I thought made a wonderful showman, a wonderful piece of showmanship, really dramatic acting. How he turned a very